I'm Andre Huey, and this is the SKN Newsline Newscast. St. Kitts and Nevis recorded a third COVID-19 death in the space of a week. St. Kitts and Nevis has recorded another COVID-19 related death, bringing the number of deaths from the dreadful disease to 3 in less than a week, as the number of confirmed cases increases through community spread. The recent death was recorded in the St. Kitts and Nevis COVID-19 situation report for Tuesday, June 22nd. Additionally, the number of positive cases of COVID-19 in Her Majesty's prison has increased to 39 from 37. Additionally, the number of positive cases of COVID-19 in Her Majesty's prison increased from 37 to 39 inmates in isolation after it was first announced at a joint press conference between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of National Security on June 17th. Health officials are continuing a robust contact tracing and testing program to break the second wave of the virus that has spread within the community. I'm Andre Huey reporting for SKN Newsline. Former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin says the country cannot depend on vaccination as the solution to controlling the COVID-19 situation. He believes in addition to vaccination, the authorities should also be looking at preventing the virus from entering our borders and reiterated calls for visitors to the country to be tested upon arrival. More in this report. Don't depend on vaccination, former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin tells the authorities as it relates to efforts to control the COVID-19 pandemic. In an interview with SK Newsline, Dr. Martin stressed the need to prevent the virus from entering the country.
We are an island nation. You can prevent things from coming in. Testing at the border. And just in case, testing in the communities. So yes, although you've been hearing that hashtag about vaccination, we have to have measures that fit our context here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
The former Chief Medical Officer reiterated the need to test visitors arriving in St. Kitts and Nevis at the border. He made a case for the use of high-performing rapid test kits.
Testing. Testing is the first line of defense. Testing at the border of all incoming passengers will help to identify carriers and put them into isolation at once. If they're negative, you send them to real quarantine, not anything else, but real quarantine, and you test them again. If after 3 negative tests in 10 days, 7-10 days, you could be fairly assured that the person is not carrying a virus. And then in the communities, we must have ongoing free access to community-based testing using rapid tests, and rapid tests are now performing very highly, almost as high as the gold standard.
The health authorities have previously said they were sticking to the gold standard of testing, which is the PCR tests, as they need to have accurate results to make the correct decisions. Dr. Martin admits that the PCR test is indeed the gold standard, but suggested that both tests could be done concurrently at the RLB International Airport.
You could do PCR and rapid tests at the same time, and that way you see how they both perform. After about a week or so, you see how the rapid test is performing, and the high-performing rapid tests will perform highly. You can then switch to a rapid test only approach, and anybody who pops up indeterminate or positive on a rapid test, then they get PCR.
Andre Huey, SKN Newsline. When we come back, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws admits that the strain of the virus being spread across the country appears to be more contagious and deadlier. Elliott's Funeral Parlor is the first licensed embalmer in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have a friendly and professional staff. At Elliott's Funeral Parlor, we offer a wide range of packages from $6,500, homegoing service at chapel, locally made caskets, tailoring of outfit for deceased of your choice, wake, overnight with slideshow, funeral, death announcement, obituary, booklets, family pin-ons, memorial books, preparation of funeral arrangements, wreath, fresh and artificial. For further information, call 469-3298, 664-2007, or 660-0186. Elliott's Funeral Parlor in Gingerland, Nevis. Dedicated to those we serve.
I need some vegetables. veggies for dinner. Let me just check the amount of sodium in this can. Oh no, this is too much. Let me try our next option. They did say it's healthy to consume less salt. This is much better. I am salt smart.
Auto Plus Car Wash, located on the College Street Gut, Bastille, St. Kitts. Bring your car to Auto Plus Car Wash to remove water stains, wiper marks. Get your doors, roof panel cleaned, seat floor mats, buffing, headlights, and engine wash. You get quality service at the best price at Auto Plus Car Wash. They really care for your car. Call 765-5140 or visit them on the College Street Gut, Bastille, St. Kitts. Auto Plus Car Wash, where the service is number one.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
Welcome back. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws admits that the strain of the virus being spread across the country appears to be more contagious and deadlier. The authorities are still not able to determine the strain of the coronavirus that is currently in St. Kitts and Nevis, but is awaiting results from the CARFA lab in Trinidad and Tobago. SK Newsline's Glenn Bart reports.
Health officials have a strong belief that the COVID-19 strain that is circulating in communities on St. Kitts is different to what was captured during 2020. St. Kitts and Nevis's Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws said samples of the current COVID-19 strain that is circulating have been sent to the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARFA, for genomic sequencing, a process that would reveal the type of COVID-19 in circulation. During a recent NEOC COVID-19 briefing, Dr. Laws explained more.
When we get those results, we'll be able to share with the public more information regarding the strain of the COVID-19 virus that is in circulation. But coming out of the meeting that I chaired with the case managers last Friday morning, at the end of the meeting, we concurred two things. One, the strain of the virus that is in circulation now is more transmissible than the strain that we contained last year between March and June, July. So it's more transmissible and it is more deadly. Because when you look at the number of hospitalizations and how the cases present at the emergency room, we can safely say that this strain is more transmissible and more deadly, compared to the strain that was in circulation in the Federation last year.
Following the initial circulation, virus mutations have resulted in 4 main variants. The Alpha variant was first identified in the United Kingdom, the Beta variant originated in South Africa, the Gamma variant was identified in Brazil, and the Delta variant was first seen in India. According to the World Health Organization, the Delta variant is about 50% more transmissible than the other COVID-19 variants, and it has become the dominant strain circulating worldwide. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
An outspoken citizen offers advice to the authorities on how they can reduce vaccine hesitancy and increase the rate of vaccination in St. Kitts and Nevis. Curtis Crook, an outspoken and concerned citizen, believes there should be a different approach to the government's vaccination rollout program, which may encourage more persons to become vaccinated. Firstly, Mr. Crook, speaking to SK Newsline, said he does not trust the authorities providing the information.
As I say, I'm not against the vaccine. We got to protect ourselves, we got to do what we have to do. As I keep saying, I have a problem with the message, the forcefulness. the forcefulness of how the message been put out. People has a life. This is life, death. We're using the excuse that do this one for your children. If you love your children, well, I've been loving my children all the time. I'm going to continue to be loving them. I think we should find ways in order to get the message across. Deal with us as we as human beings and not the bullying factor. The people I keep saying on the task force, my humble opinion personally, I don't trust a lot of them. Why? As I said, let's deal with Cameron Wilkinson for sure. We can't let this thing go away. Let's look at what happened at the hospital with the stem cell. To me, that always on my mind. That was always on my mind. Why? Because technically I was a part of that. And when you're going to look at me and tell me that you fired Dr. Martin, who was the CMO at the time, for crying out for what he think was illegal in our hospital. And Dr. Martin did not get the support from people like Cameron Wilkinson.
Mr. Crook offers suggestions as to what can be done to encourage persons to become more convinced to vaccinate.
We understand the country have to open, but again I'm saying to you, it's not that people saying they would not take the vaccine eventually. But the issue here is not that taking the vaccine. I didn't tell you we'll never ever take the vaccine. I'm saying to you, again, let me sit down, discuss with me, give me some time, let me sit about it and think about it. The bullying style and the people who are around and them with the rhetoric is not working, Mr. Huey. What you say making sense. If these people could come and sit down and discuss it properly with people, keep off the Facebook, let Patches keep off the radio, and let people organize themselves and prepare themselves. Give me some incentive, give me some assurance. Because don't tell me if I take the vaccine I can't die. It is possible.
So you're saying that you should have different people then giving the message?
Given the message, and we should also have an option in other vaccine.
Former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin has previously called for a different communications plan as it relates to providing information on the COVID-19 vaccine. He recently reiterated that point in an interview with SK Newsline.
But we have to have a diverse strategy, better communication, mobilizing social influencers who have a known track record of reaching different populations. And I heard another suggestion last week, which I found rather intriguing. Some people are saying, I will take the vaccine if it's available in my private doctor's office. That's interesting.
But Chief of Staff at the JNF Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, believes enough information is already available for persons to go out and get vaccinated.
Herd immunity benefits society collectively, so it's only fair that the responsibility of reaching it be shared evenly among the individual society members. And so our only hope is that you do not hesitate and get vaccinated.
As of June 22nd, 11,895 persons are fully vaccinated. That's 36% of the target population. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline. The New Horizons Rehabilitation Center in Sadler's Home for the Elderly and the Mary Charles Hospital recently received a donation of organic greens, courtesy of Paris Leafy Greens in Nevis. This donation was the third collaborative effort between the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Marine Resources and Paris Leafy Greens. The Cotton Thomas Comprehensive School, St. Christopher Outreach Center, the JNF General Hospital, the Cardin Home and Her Majesty's Prison have all previously benefited from this initiative. Crops Extension Officer Tanisha Weeks and Agricultural Officer with responsibility for Crops Division Ian Chapman facilitated the handing over. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline. When we come back, Cuba fights back against U.S. sanctions with the U.S. dollar. It's the new and improved SK Newsline Android mobile app. With the SK Newsline app, you can watch your news reports, the SK Newsline Newscast, sports, special features, and so much more. You can also send us a WhatsApp or call us directly. Go in the Google Play Store, search SK Newsline, and download the app today. The SK Newsline mobile app. News on the go.
Bless up, Dejo here, and I'm doing my part in the fight against COVID-19 by following all safety protocols and most importantly, rolling up my sleeve for the vaccine. So I'm encouraging you to do the same, because that's our best shot of protecting ourselves, our family, and our friends. So don't wait, vaccinate. Let's roll up to roll out.
Welcome back. A sanctions battle closer to home for the United States is with Cuba. The communist country is appealing to the United Nations General Assembly to end a decades-long trade embargo that it calls inhumane. It comes as banks in Cuba suspend deposits of US dollars, making life harder for people. Al Jazeera's Andy Gallagher reports from Miami.
President Joe Biden came to office promising changes in US policy toward Cuba. But months after he moved into the White House, sanctions remain in place and diplomacy is strained at best. The crippling effects of the US embargo recently led to the suspension of cash deposits in US dollars, a major source of income for ordinary Cubans.
It affects me from the point of view that I have relatives abroad who send me foreign currency, but well, we will look for other ways for it to arrive.
It's all a far cry from President Obama's historic visit in 2016. When relations were normalized, the US embassy reopened and travel to Cuba allowed. President Biden, it seems, is not following suit.
A Cuba policy shift or additional steps is currently not among the president's top foreign policy priorities, but it is an issue, of course, we will remain engaged in and focused on.
In essence, that means retaining hundreds of tough measures put in place by President Trump, including redesignating Cuba a state sponsor of terrorism. Critics of the embargo say despite calls for democracy and improved human rights in Cuba, changes can be made.
They want to see some evidence of progress, politically, economically, but that's not necessarily an impediment to perhaps taking initial steps to get rid of some of the more strict or tough sanctions that the Trump administration put in place.
Major modifications to such a complex and long-standing web of laws would need congressional approval, something not likely to happen, but the reason behind Biden's lack of action may be more political.
During the last presidential election here in Florida, Democrats suffered losses in part because President Trump was so tough on Cuba. Fear of communism runs deep among both Cuban American and Hispanic voters, and support for the embargo remains high. The Biden administration's keenly aware of just how crucial those votes are, reason enough perhaps to keep the status quo.
For Cuban Americans like Ingrid Arenas, the blame lays squarely with the Cuban government.
They don't allow any young people that, of course, have new ideas, have a new method, have a good hopes. No, they don't allow anybody who thinks different do something. So it has to be a change. The only way for Cuban people is a change.
Speaking in Havana late last year, Cuba's foreign minister condemned the embargo, saying it brought nothing but pain.
The U.S. government has tightened in extreme and unprecedented ways the blockade against Cuba, taking advantage of the terrible conditions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The blockade has always been a criminal act, a genocidal act as established by the Geneva Convention, an act of economic warfare.
For more than 25 years, the UN General Assembly has voted in favor of ending the US embargo on Cuba. But
The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, with assistance from internal agencies, has embarked on 12 projects totaling 166.6 million EC dollars that will help individual member states recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. More from DBS TV in St. Lucia.
The coronavirus pandemic has battered small island economies, leaving thousands jobless and in despair. The constriction of finance amid increasing demands on the public purse has forced OECS governments into borrowing in order to provide some form of relief to displaced citizens and to finance projects designed to aid economic recovery. OECS Director General Dr. Didacus Jules paid tribute to the entities whose funding has made it possible for the OECS to stay afloat in the face of economic turbulence.
It is always dangerous to single out individual organizations or people for recognition in situations when so much depends on so many playing their part, when the standard of service requires that so much more is delivered. But the constriction of finance in the face of the many demands on the limited public purse requires that we recognize those whose major funding made it possible for us to keep delivering to member states.
To this end, the OECS has embarked on 12 projects costing EC $166.6 million to aid in recovery from COVID-19.
The World Bank, the European Union, the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, USAID, the Global Fund, the Global Partnership for Education, and the Government of Norway are currently among our top partners with a combined portfolio in this immediate period of 12 projects totaling $166.6 million Eastern Caribbean dollars.
Dr. Jules was also thankful to the Good Samaritans in the Caribbean and its diaspora who have provided pro bono assistance in this time of critical need. For the DBS News World, I'm Don Nicholas.
When we come back, Iran's president-elect promises to put the needs of his people first.
Stay abreast with news on St. Martin with SMN News. Visit www.smn-news.com for up-to-date news, scoops, opinions, and hard-hitting facts. SMN News, we tell it like it is. Visit our website www.smn-news.com.
Junior, can I get popcorn, please? Santel, Def. Want some to please? I can get some salt. More, please. Boy, take a pack from Junie.
Welcome back. Iran's president-elect says he will put the needs of his people first. Former Chief Justice Ebrahim Raisi secured victory during the weekend in an election with an historic low turnout. Raisi used his first speech to the nation to set the tone for the next 4 years and indicated how he plans to fix the economy and interact with foreign powers. He has made sweeping promises ranging from fighting corruption to protecting Iran's interest in negotiations with the West. Al Jazeera's Mohammed Dorsa Jabari reports from the Iranian capital of Tehran.
A warm welcome for Iran's 8th president-elect in his hometown of Mashhad at the Imam Reza Shrine. Crowds had gathered to hear what their newly elected leader, Ebrahim Raisi, had to say on the issues that affect them. Raisi spoke for a little more than 30 minutes, and most of it was religious in nature, but he did have a message for the people of Iran.
In domestic politics, domestic policy and foreign policy, the focus should be on the dignity of this nation, and the focus should be on the fact that in any negotiations, the dignity of this nation should not be hurt. In our domestic policies, in foreign policies, in the kind of interactions that we're going to have with any countries in the world, the focus is the protection of the dignity and the prestige of the Iranian nation.
This was Raisi's first address to the nation. Although it was short on specifics, he had made promises to address the problems facing Iran. He said his administration will focus on justice, respect, and dignity to improve life for Iranians. He also promised to ensure mass vaccinations against COVID-19 as soon as he takes office. Earlier on Tuesday, the current government of President Hassan Rouhani responded to comments made by U.S. officials who called Friday's presidential election manufactured and neither free nor fair.
From a political point of view, we consider the statement as an example of interference in Iran's internal affairs and against the international law. We condemn it. The US government is not in a position to comment on the electoral process in Iran or any other country.
48% of eligible voters participated in the presidential election, which officials consider a respectable turnout. Despite that figure being the lowest ever for a presidential vote, Ebrahim Raisi managed to get nearly 18 million votes. While President-elect will take office in early August, it's clear the challenges he faces will be many. He's already made large sweeping promises, including fighting corruption, improving the country's economy, and maintaining Iran's best interests in negotiations with the West. But it's not clear yet if he will be able to deliver on his promises. Dorsa Jabari, Al Jazeera, Tehran.
The White House is expected to fall short of its goal of having 70% of Americans partially vaccinated against COVID-19 by July 4th, as health officials warn that younger adults are at risk of catching the Delta variant. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Uche Blackstock explains the risk the Delta variant poses to younger people and whether the new strain could mutate further.
For more on the pandemic, let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Uche Blackstock. Dr. Blackstock, let's just kind of jump right into this Delta variant. I've spoken to health officials in Missouri on and off last week, and again in that state, they kept telling me that they are seeing an increase in hospitalizations and that the COVID patients hospitalized are way younger than before, 20 to 60 years old and often unvaccinated. Those are people who could get vaccinated if they wanted to. So what about this new variant and children under the age of 12 who are not able to get a vaccine even if they or their parents wanted them to?
Right. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. You know, we don't have any signs yet that this Delta variant is more transmissible or more severe in kids than in adults, but obviously it still is a risk. And so until children under 12 can be fully vaccinated, we need to ensure that the adults around them, as many as possible, are vaccinated, and then ensure that when children are in high-risk environments, such as crowded settings and indoors, that we are still abiding by preventive measures, especially in communities where the transmission is high and vaccination rates are quite low. We really have to make sure over the next few months that we're focusing on protecting our children.
In India, doctors there are reporting a new variation of the Delta variant, and they're calling it Delta Plus. They say that it is more transmissible than the original Delta variant. What do we know about that variant at this point in time?
Right. So we still don't know enough about the variant. We know that in order for it to be considered a variant of concern, it's supposed to be more transmissible or cause more severe disease or evade coronavirus antibodies. So it has one of those attributes. But again, those were just shown in lab studies. We need to see how does this variant, Delta Plus variant, behave in real life settings. We already know that it's present in about 8 other countries. But again, you know, I think just like the Delta variant, we know that preventive measures work. We know that vaccination works. And also genomic surveillance is incredibly important to keeping track of these particular variants.
Daily vaccinations, those numbers seem like they are just dropping every day right now. Do you think that people might reconsider getting vaccinated given what we're seeing with the Delta variant? And I guess, are there any convincible unvaccinated people left?
Right. Yes. You know, I definitely think there are some left, and we've seen this in some of the polling. There still are these wait and see folks out there who are waiting for full approval of the vaccines that will actually cause a shift in making them decide to get the vaccine. But there's also a tremendous amount of misinformation out there, and I think that is one area that the Biden administration is targeting, as well as continuing the incentives, continuing the outreach, especially among young adults 18 to 26.
All right, well, if anybody is looking for a good source to dispel misinformation, your Twitter account is one of my go-tos, Dr. Blackstock. It is always so informative. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We'll see you again soon.
In sports, it's exactly 1 month before the start of the Tokyo Olympics. Delayed by a year due to the coronavirus pandemic, the decision to go ahead is highly controversial in Japan. Organizers insist all the necessary precautions will be put in place to make sure the games are safe. Al Jazeera's Rob McBride reports.
With 1 month to go before the games start, this was the rehearsal for the opening ceremony, with busloads of staff playing the part of Olympians. But the organisers are still unable to predict for sure how this Olympics will play out before the closing ceremony. Also being put on show for the media, the Athletes' Village, which will be home to 11,000 participants. It was originally planned for many of them to eat together in vast dining halls, but instead, competitors will be asked to eat alone. With extensive precautions in place, the organisers are insisting these games will be safe.
I've stayed in the athletes' villages for a total of 11 times, 7 times as an athlete and 4 times as a team leader. But without a doubt, this village is by far the best.
There'll be restrictions on when and where spectators can cheer or sing, and their numbers will be capped at 50%, which may be further restricted by the time the games get underway. What's more, spectators from overseas are banned, dealing a big blow to businesses like Mamoru Tanaka's sports bar in downtown Tokyo, already struggling with business down 2/3 during the pandemic.
We were hoping the games would give us a boost, but I'm torn because having more customers can cause a COVID cluster.
Equally torn, it seems, is public opinion in Japan about going ahead with these games.
People are asked to make sacrifices and put up with the restrictions, but the government wants to hold the games with spectators. I don't understand them.
We've waited a year and we should just go ahead with a stadium full of spectators.
There's not enough information about people coming from outside Japan and if they've been vaccinated. I'm concerned the virus will spread further.
As official Olympic posters are unveiled, there are still so many unanswered questions. But finally, the biggest one is now seemingly resolved. The games will go on. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera.
It was a dramatic finish for the Phoenix Suns, who eked out a Game 2 victory on Tuesday night in the NBA Western Conference Finals. Jay Crowder inbounded the ball to DeAndre Ayton for the dunk with 0.7 seconds remaining in regulation to lift the Suns over the Clippers 104-103. DeAndre Ayton recorded a playoff career-high 24 points, along with 14 rebounds for the Suns, while Cameron Payne added a playoff career-high 29 points, along with 9 assists in the victory. Paul George tallied 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists for the Clippers. He missed 2 crucial free throws down the stretch, which would have given the Clippers the victory. The Suns lead this best-of-7 series 2-0, with Game 3 carded for Thursday, June 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern. And in the latest results of the Euro 2020, Croatia defeated Scotland on Tuesday 3-1, while England edged out the Czech Republic 1-0. Then on Wednesday, it was a 3-2 victory for Sweden over Poland, while Spain crushed Slovakia 5-0. This has been the SKN Newsline Newscast. For more news, log on to our website at www.sknewsline.com or visit our Facebook page. From all of us here at SK Newsline and Channel 95, I'm Andre Huey. Thank you for watching.